Yeah, good evening everyone. I hope I am audible and visible and good to go, good to start. Please say yes or no if you are not able to see or able to see. And I hope there are still some goosebumps, anxiety attacks going on with every passing day. We did till here yesterday euchromatin and heterochromatin, right? And I hope now that competitive thing is over, competitive inhibition, non-competitive, allosteric, feedback, suicidal, competitive, two things have to be similar. Okay, affinity for substrate decreases, so Km increases. Non-competitive, it's for allosteric enzymes, it is not natural. Competitive is natural, allosteric inhibition is natural, feedback is natural, suicidal is not natural, uncompetitive again it's not natural. And what we are discussed, like both will decrease, Km and Vmax. So coming back to molecular biology, let's continue with that without wasting time. Next part we have to do is the bonds in DNA. We have been discussing types of DNA, bDNA, aDNA, zDNA. Then we did nucleosomes. Then we discussed euchromatin and heterochromatin. Okay. One thing which you can note down before that related to histones. Okay, that acetylation and phosphorylation. Acetylation and phosphorylation of histones lead to what? Gene activation, euchromatin formation. Basically it will lead to activation of DNA genetic material, that is gene activation, as well as euchromatin, which is an active form of your DNA. Okay, whereas you do the opposite, deacetylation, dephosphorylation of histones, gene inactivation. Okay, gene inactivation. Next is, what is the structure of DNA? Or not structure, basically the bonds in DNA. Structure you all know, it's a double helix structure, strands are running anti-parallel to each other. But most importantly is, what are the bonds which are there? Like you always see structure like this. So there are bonds like which is binding these two anti-parallel strands to each other. So if we draw on a simpler note two anti-parallel strands, okay, we have sugar, we have phosphate, we have sugar, we have phosphate, and so on. Here also we have sugar, phosphate, sugar, phosphate. With sugar you have nitrogenous base, nitrogenous base, nitrogenous base. Okay, here also you have nitrogenous base, nitrogenous base. Bond between these two nitrogenous base can be double bond or triple bond based on the purine and the pyrimidine combination. I told you A and T binds with double bond, G binds to C with a triple bond. So here you can write AT, GC, AT. Okay, anything. Now important to know is, what are these bonds actually? This is weak hydrogen bonds. Yeah, good evening, Dr. Asima. Weak hydrogen bonds. Why we write weak? Hydrogen bonds are actually very weak. And what is the significance of remembering the word weak is that these bonds will break. See, next what we will do is DNA replication. That time you will understand. These bonds are easy to break. That's why you are able to separate the two DNA strands. Okay. Weak hydrogen bonds. So these are also weak hydrogen bonds. Then there is a bond between the nitrogenous base and the sugar. Between the nitrogenous base and the sugar. This is beta N glycosidic bond. This has been asked in your exam. Okay. Then last is the bond between phosphate and sugar. This bond or this bond. This is 3' to 5' phosphodiester bond. Please remember it is 3' to 5', not 5 to 3. 5' to 3' is the normal direction of a strand. Okay, like every time you write a strand, you have to write 5 to 3. But this bond direction is reverse, and you will know the significance in DNA replication why this bond is always formed from 3 to 5 directions. Both these beta N glycosidic and 3,5 diester bonds both are of covalent type, and covalent bonds are strong bonds. They are very difficult to break. That's why the two strands, when separated, they are pretty much stable as an individual strand. Okay, as an individual strand. So now the question, answer this. Which of the following is correct? Question number 1. If we are writing like this in question number 1, which of the following is correct? Question number 2, which of the following is correct? ABC, ABC. Remember, whenever the direction is given, okay, whenever the direction is given, say direction is given 5 to 3, then in notation A will come before G. Okay, so when direction 3 to 5 is given, G will come before A. It means all three are correct, both are correct. Okay. In question number 2, when no direction is given, A will come before G. So only this is correct. Right? Just remember this basic concept. Then there is a class of enzyme called nucleases. We had discussed earlier. Which EC number? 03. Okay, that is, it belongs to the category of hydrolysis. It breaks the covalent bond. In nucleic acids. There are two types of nucleases: exonucleases, endonucleases. Exo means outside, endo means inside. Okay, so it cuts from the sides. If suppose this is the DNA strand, you introduce nucleases, that is exonuclease, it will cut from here. It can cut this part, it can cut this part, but it cannot cut in the middle. Okay, it can cut, endo can cut anywhere in between in the strand. Okay, it can cut anywhere in between. You have examples like 5', 3' exonucleases, 3', 5' exonucleases. If like the enzyme is 5-3 exonuclease, it means it will start from here and do the cutting of the sides of the strands. But if it is 3 to 5, it will start from here. Endonuclease can cut anywhere, and the example is very common. Again, you have been reading this since class 12. Restriction endonucleases. Okay, restriction endonucleases. Restriction endonucleases are very special type of endonucleases which cut at specific sites which have palindromic sequences. Okay, palindromic is left to right and right to left. When you read, it is same. Okay, like many English words are there in palindrome. It just kept my mind up. I'll just recall it. You know the word palindrome. Okay, left to right and right to left. When you read, it's the same. So now the question is, which of the following sites restriction endonucleases can act or can cut? GGCC. Information given is only this much. Answer this. See, for such MCQs in which only this limited information is given, you have to be very careful. Always remember, human DNA is always double stranded. Okay, so if they give you TAAT, it means it is from 5 to 3. Okay, and you have to make 3 to 5. Sorry. This will be ATTA. So if you read a sequence TAAT, the opposite sequence is ATTA, ATA. It is not a palindrome. Now see this one. GGCC here. On opposite strand it will be GGCC. So when you read left to right, you have to read like this: GGCC, GGCC. So it is a palindrome. So answer is A. Okay. Always remember, human DNA is double stranded. You cannot have one strand as a reference DNA, so you cannot answer based only on the sequence given in the one strand. You have to develop the second strand by yourself. Okay. Now next is a concept called as central dogma, DOGMA, of molecular biology. What is called as central dogma of molecular biology? It says whenever there is going to be protein synthesis, the sequence will always remain same. Sequence is, you will start from DNA. You have to start from DNA. First DNA will make RNA, and then you will form proteins. Okay, it is not going to happen in any other sequence. Okay, even if we are starting from RNA, at times first RNA will make DNA, then DNA will make a new RNA, and that new RNA will make protein. So DNA to RNA process is called transcription, RNA to proteins process is called translation. RNA to DNA is called reverse transcription. Right? Now see the name of the enzymes. When you are making DNA to RNA, when you are making RNA from DNA, like you are starting from DNA, so enzyme name is very simple. Since you are starting from DNA, enzyme name is DNA dependent, and what you are making? RNA polymerase. You are starting from DNA, so the name starts from DNA dependent, because it is starting from DNA. And since you are going to make RNA, that is, you are going to polymerize into RNA, so the remaining half of the name is RNA polymerase. So transcription enzymes belong to this category of enzymes, that is, they are DNA dependent RNA polymerase. Okay. Likewise, RNA to DNA, if you are making, enzyme category will be RNA dependent DNA polymerase. And one example of this enzyme is reverse transcriptase. So reverse transcriptase is what? It is an RNA dependent DNA polymerase. Okay. Also, central dogma says a very beautiful thing. What if you have, say, you have one set of DNA, you want to make, say, today you want to make hand protein, okay, protein which is going to make your hand, or let us say you want to make one enzyme, okay. You will start from DNA, you will make RNA, and you will make protein, that is, you will make that enzyme. So this DNA is lost, it is gone. How will you make further enzymes? That is why the first step of central dogma is what? First step is always DNA replication. First you will replicate or duplicate the DNA. First you will make a photocopy, Xerox of it. Then you will use one of the two for making any particular protein. So that every time you are making a protein, you are still left with one set of the original DNA, okay, which can be used further for making many combinations or the same enzyme if you want to synthesize again and again. So this process is DNA replication, okay, and the enzyme here is very simple, DNA dependent DNA polymerase, because you are starting from DNA and you are ending in DNA. So central dogma sequence becomes what? First is replication, DNA replication, then is transcription, then is translation. Or it can be written like this, central dogma. It is DNA replication, transcription, translation, or it can be RNA to DNA, that is reverse transcription, then it is DNA replication, then it forms transcription, and then it shows translation. Both are correct. Right? So next is talking about chromosomes. Chromosomes are found in diploid state in humans, that is 2 in number, that is in pairs, 2n. Okay, humans have 23 pairs. 22 are autosomes and 1 is sex chromosomes. These are pairs. So total we have 46 chromosomes. Out of that, 44 are autosomes and 2 are sex chromosomes. Okay. Right. Now the basic structure of a chromosome. Chromosomes have got short arm, long arm. The central part to which these arms are attached is called centromere. Shorter arm is called P, small p, longer arm is called small q. Okay. End portion of chromosome is called telomere. Telomere. Based on the position of the centromere, we have a classification of chromosome, that is centromere position. You have types of chromosome, okay, and examples. If the centromere is at center, chromosomes are called metacentric. If it is near the center, it is called submetacentric. If it is close to one end, it is called acrocentric. And if it is at the end, coinciding with the telomere, it is called telocentric. Okay. Metacentric is a primitive form of chromosomes, but amongst humans, chromosome number 1 and 3 are metacentric. Most of human chromosomes are submetacentric, including X chromosome. Y is acrocentric. Also, you have autosomes like 13 number, 14 number, 15, 21, 22. They are acrocentric. Telocentric, absent in humans. Right. Now, along with that, there is a concept of bar bodies. Bar bodies are nothing but inactive form and condensed form of X chromosomes. So number of bar bodies is equal to number of X chromosome minus 1. So if we talk about normal female has got how many X chromosomes? 2X. So number of bar body will be 2 minus 1 is equal to 1. Right? Normal male is XY. So 1 minus 1, number of bar body is 0. Super female, its representation is XXX. So 3 minus 1, number of bar body is 2. Klinefelter syndrome, XXY. Turner syndrome, okay. Then we have a topic of genetic disorders. Genetic disorders can be chromosomal disorders, single gene disorders, multiple inheritance, or multifactorial disorders. In chromosomal, we can have numerical defects, or we can have structural defects of chromosomes. In multifactorial, we can have genetic plus environmental factors which are playing the role, like you have diabetes, hypertension. Okay. Under numerical defects of chromosomes, there are two terms, euploidy and aneuploidy. If an individual has got normal number of chromosomes, it is called euploidy. Okay, if it has got abnormal number, that is some chromosome is more or some is less, it is called as aneuploidy. So when we talk about aneuploidy, euploidy we are not interested in for exams. Aneuploidy can be monosomy or trisomy, that one out of the two chromosomes, like we have N, that is a haploid number, and then you have 2N, that is a diploid number. Okay, so if there is one missing, it is called monosomy. If there is one N extra, it is called trisomy. Okay, monosomy can be related to autosomes, it can be related to sex chromosomes. Trisomy can be related to autosomes, can be related to sex chromosomes. If it is monosomy is related to autosomes, it is lethal. That is most dangerous form of aneuploidy. Individual will not survive. Okay. Sex chromosome, you know the example, Turner syndrome. That is XO. Okay. This is the only syndrome which is compatible with life. That is which survive. Turner syndrome is a female actually with one missing X chromosome. It's a female. It's not a male. Okay. That's why we say females are the bravest of all species in the world. Okay. They survive even with one missing X chromosome. Then in autosomes, we have many examples. The common one are trisomy 13, that is called Patau syndrome. No need to go into the features of that, but just remember the names. Trisomy 18, Edward syndrome. 21, you all know, Down syndrome. Okay. Sex chromosome Klinefelter's XXY. You have super female XXX. You have super male XYY. Right? Most common chromosomal disorder in humans is Downs. Right? I hope there is nothing to understand much, but more of data as such. Then I'll share with you the list of autosomal recessive disorders. As such, Davidson has a beautiful list. but still what is being compiled in biochem from the exam point of view, I'll share it in your app by tonight or tomorrow early morning. Okay, of all the relevant diseases which you should know, they are X-linked, dominant or recessive. Otherwise you can always refer to the Davidson thing. I'll share that if you want. Remember the recessive, it's the smaller list, okay, and you dominant is mostly the longer one, right? But for exams, let us just summarize few things, and you will remember. You can note down here and you remember at least this much so that your exams are sorted. If both male and female are affected in the progeny with equal frequency, what is the disorder? Autosomal dominant. If at least one parent is affected, it means it is a dominant disorder. These are few points which will help you solve the questions. If neither of parent is affected, it means the parents are heterozygous and they are carrier, like AA, and still the disease is moving forward. It is called recessive disorder. And just give me a second. Guys, just give me 2 minutes. The other class has got shut down. Dr. Aman's class is going on. I have to create a new link. Just give me 2 minutes. Yeah, thank you guys. Then fourth one, if there is no male to male transmission of the disease, it means what? It means it is X X-linked recessive. Important for your exam. If there is if disease transmits from father to all sons, it is Y-linked. If mother to all offsprings, male and female children both, it is mitochondrial inheritance. Okay, mitochondrial inheritance. More males, if more males are affected and affected son born to unaffected mother, X-linked recessive. More females are affected and affected son born to affected mother, X-linked dominant. If you remember this, you will not make a mistake in such MCQs. These two are most important. Right? Then next topic, which someone asked in the group also, we couldn't do yesterday, mitochondrial DNA. We just did one term, mitochondrial inheritance. Okay, 1% of total cellular DNA. Mitochondrial DNA accounts for about 1% of the total. It is present only in eukaryotes. It's not in the primitive organism, but it resembles prokaryotes DNA. Okay, it means it has got it is circular double-stranded DNA, no introns. We will see what these words introns and exons means. Okay, because introns are not there, there are very high chances of mutation. Okay, introns, as of now, just remember, introns prevent mutation. Right? So whenever you have mitochondrial disorders, the characteristic feature are mostly ETC is affected. ETC is electron transport chain. Electron transport chain takes place in mitochondria. Okay, so if ETC is affected, there will be less amount of ATP produced. We will see it in carbohydrates chapter, and patient will show lactic acidosis. Lactic acidosis. Then brain or CNS is affected. Then retinitis pigmentosa, pigmented retina. And lastly, It is a maternal inheritance. It will be seen in all the offsprings, like we saw in the previous page. Diseases have very peculiar names. Just remember the names so that you, when you see them in the option, you know that this is a mitochondrial disorder. No need to go into the details of this. MELAS, mitochondrial encephalopathy, mitochondrial encephalopathy, lactic acidosis, and stroke like episode. And stroke, no need to go into detail, I told you. Then you have Leber, LEBER, hereditary optic neuropathy. See, neuropathies will be there in that. Then LEIGH syndrome, Leigh syndrome. Okay. Then NARP syndrome. NARP is neuropathy, ataxia retinitis pigmentosa. Okay. Then Pearson syndrome. Then CPEO, and then MERRF. In previous MCQs of your NEET exam and one AIMS exam, these options were there in one of the MCQs. Like MELA was there, NARP was there, Pearson was there, and this was there. Okay, so just remember, nothing much. These are all mitochondrial disorders. Next is the most important topic which attracts maximum question in molecular biology is DNA replication. See, it is too much detail, Dr. Didima. You go into the pathogenesis of these disorders, no need to go into that. Okay, just ignore all these things. Yes, there are diseases which we are going to discuss in detail today also. 2-3 disorders in relation to amino acids. Then in carbohydrate metabolism, lipid metabolism, we have to discuss the diseases. But these are just the names. They are too big for MDS syllabus like. Okay, as such, biochemistry is almost like 50 to 60% of what MBBS students study, and what you are studying in these lectures is almost 70%. 30% I am omitting it for your own benefit, otherwise you will go mad. Okay, there is no end to it. Biochem is a first line major subject for MBBS guys for entrance exam. Major subject. For us, it is one of the most minor topic. But yes, the topic like DNA replication, they ask you a lot. Last year also, straightforward question came from this topic. You have enzymes which you have to remember. The sequence is important. First is helicase, then is topoisomerase. Now you understand the word isomerase. Okay. Then you have SSBs, then you have primases. Okay. Then you have DNA polymerase 3, DNA polymerase 1, and DNA ligase. The sequence is important. Do not change the sequence. Okay, it goes from 1 to 7. First is always helicase. This was the question. Actually, question was little on the different language, I'll tell you. But first, to start with DNA replication, first enzyme is helicase. Right? Now let us see what is the role of each. See, we have these DNA strands. Okay, they are running anti-parallel and they are double stranded, they are coiled basically. So first and the foremost thing for DNA to replicate, first thing which you have to do is open up the two strands. Okay, so helicase causes what? Strands separation. Uses ATP, but causes formation of supercoils. Okay, creates positive supercoils. I'll show you with some wire. This is my charger. Wait. Yeah, this is good. Suppose this is your DNA. Okay. It is coiled, right? It is coiled. You have twists and turns in this. If suppose I introduce an enzyme called helicase which will separate this, what it will do is it will start from here, it will separate. It will separate, but see what is happening at the bottom. At the bottom, it is going to create more severe coils, very tight coils. You try it out with one string or wire, you will see very tight coils. Earlier they were loose coils. So these tight coils formed because of unwinding by the helicase is called as supercoil. Okay, so when you open up from top, there are supercoils which are created at the bottom. So we have to take care of these supercoils also, right? So for that you have second enzyme called topoisomerase. Topoisomerase. It relieves these positive supercoils. As such, supercoils were not existent in DNA, okay, but they were formed because of helicases by cutting and rejoining. So you opened up this from top, okay, and when you opened up helicases, you formed something like this. Okay, it opened up from top, but it formed supercoil. So these supercoil, if what like suppose you have so many supercoils, the helicase topoisomerase will do what? It will cut, straighten it up, then will cut and straighten it up, then cut and straighten it up and join, cut and rejoin, cut and rejoin. The beauty of this mechanism is helicase and topoisomerase, they work together. That is, the word uses, they work in tandem, one after the another. First, helicase will open up the two strands, it will create a supercoil. Wherever it will create a supercoil, topoisomerase will come, it will open up the supercoil by cutting that portion and then rejoining it. Okay, so this is how the thing starts getting separated, right? Topoisomerase do not use ATP. ATP is used by helicase, right? Then there is a special type of topoisomerase called DNA gyrase. It is a special type of topoisomerase, but which uses ATP. The problem with DNA gyrase is it opens positive supercoils but create negative supercoils. Just additional information, nothing important on that. Okay, just for the remember, topoisomerase, one of the example is DNA gyrase. Third enzyme, SSB. SSB stand for single stranded or strand DNA binding protein. Okay. What is the role? Prevents re-annealing of two strands by binding single strands of DNA. Okay. This SSB actually is an enzyme found in prokaryotes, but still the terminology is being used in your MCQs. In eukaryotes, the same role is played by replication protein A, that is RPA. Right? See again what is happening. You had two strands of DNA. You want to do duplication. So first thing which you have to do is open up the two strands. For opening of the two strands, the first enzyme which will come into picture is helicase. Helicase will start opening from top. It will open up, but it will create supercoil at the bottom. To overcome those supercoil, what is the situation? Supercoil will be taken care of by the second enzyme called topoisomerase. They work together in tandem is the word. They work one after the another. Helicase will open up this much portion. It will create a supercoil here. Topoisomerase will come, cut this portion, open up the supercoil, rejoin it again. Right? And then the things will move forward. So this is how they will open up both the strands. Now if you remember when we were doing bonds of sugar, phosphate, sugar, sugar, phosphate, sugar, nitrogenous base, nitrogenous base. These are weak hydrogen bonds, right? You have opened up the two strands, like you have opened up the two strands. They are far from each other, but since they are weak hydrogen bonds, they get separated out this way by the helicase. But yes, they have a tendency. A here has a tendency to bind to T, T has a tendency to bind to A, G has a tendency to bind to C. So these bonds have a very high tendency, these nitrogenous bases, to combine and form hydrogen bonds again at a very, very fast pace. Okay, and as such we are talking about microns level. So to prevent, once you have separated, helicase has worked, topoisomerase has worked, you are successful in separating the strands, you are successful in managing the supercoils. You don't want them to get reattached. The two strands should not come together. So this role, that two strands should not come together, is taken care by what? SSBs or RPA in eukaryotes, that is replication protein A, a single strand DNA binding protein. It will bind to the single strand and it will not let it to come closer to the other strand. So now there is a term which came in your NEET exam: unwinding enzymes or unwinding proteins. Include what? 3 enzymes. 1 helicase, 2 topoisomerase, and 3rd SSBs. Okay, or you can say RPA. This is a common term given to all the 3, because actually all 3 together will be able to successfully unwind the 2 strands of DNA. Not only helicase can do, not only topoisomerase, not only SSB. All 3 have to be there working together one after the another, then only the things will be separated. Question which came in your NEET 2020 last to last year was, which of the following is an unwinding protein in DNA replication procedure? These were the options: helicase, topoisomerase, I think SSB was there, and 4th was DNA polymerase. Can anybody answer this? Answer given in Vadhavan is wrong for this. Can anybody answer? This is the question. NEET 2020. Unwinding proteins are these three. I've just added as fourth as an option. DNA polymerase is not an unwinding protein. Dr. Purva says topoisomerase. Anyone else? VB. See, Vadhavan says this, but this is a wrong answer as per standard textbooks like Harper. Okay. First unwinding enzyme is helicase. Nothing will start without helicase. So actually the term unwinding in Harper is used for helicase. Okay. See, imagine the two strands are not separated. It means supercoil will not be formed. Topoisomerase role is just to open up the supercoil by cutting and rejoining. Okay, if there is no helicase, there is no supercoil, there is no role of topoisomerase. So helicase remains the most superior answer in this. Otherwise, remember, if question comes, what are the unwinding enzymes? Helicase, topoisomerase, SSB, all, best answer will be all. But if you have to choose among the three, helicase is the best answer. Okay. Fourth enzyme are primerases. Okay. What they do is they synthesize RNA primer. So if you want to do, you have a DNA strand and you want to synthesize RNA primer. Okay. You want to synthesize RNA primer. So what you will be doing, you will be using DNA only to synthesize. So the enzyme name will be what? DNA dependent RNA polymerase. Right? DNA dependent RNA polymerase. Now see what has actually happened. This much portion we have opened up of DNA, right? 5'